It's great to see such I guess, a large crowd, despite the current situation that we're living in. Much different world, and although that the celebration scheduled back in the month of May had to be postponed, it is still important to take the time to recognize and to commemorate events important to not only the Wedgeport Legion, but that played fundamental roles in our development of our country and the safety and freedom and liberty of millions around the world. For the younger crowd coming up through school, for youth, it's an important opportunity for them to ensure that the history of our veterans, the legacy of their commitment and their sacrifices, be continued to be carried on for generations. Ces genres de cérémonies sont importants pour afin de souligner l'importance du dévouement et des sacrifices de milliers de nos Canadiens qui ont contribué à la libération de millions à travers le monde. Ce qu'encore aujourd'hui, nous autres ici au Canada, on est très, très chanceux d'avoir des droits fondamentaux, d'expression de voix, de différences politiques, de différences de religion. Et c'est ça qui nous sépare de différents pays, malheureusement. Et c'est ces droits fondamentaux que plusieurs encore font la lutte pour avoir chez eux. The 75th anniversary of the liberation of Holland was an important milestone in our nation's history, the history of our Canadian military, and as Andre pointed out, put us among the top ranks of the militaries, the armies around the world. So today, I'm proud to be here with all of you to recognize our local contributions. We continue to honor the more than 1 million Canadian soldiers that served in World War II, the 45,000 that never returned home.
Bonjour et bienvenue à cette très importante commémoration. We celebrate and commemorate the people who were involved in the liberation of Holland, and also the day of victory of Europe. We are very proud of the men and women who were engaged and participated in the historic event of 75 years ago. But like any other battles of war, this one came at a terrible cost, with roughly 7,600 Canadian soldiers losing their lives in the battle in Holland, and one of which is from this area. Maybe more from this area, but only one from the catchment area of the Wedgeport Legion. I can just imagine the difficult months they had to endure. We still have a few, as was mentioned before, we still have a few here with us today. And we want you to know how grateful we are for all you had to go through during this horrible mission. We are not the only ones who are proud and grateful for what Canadians accomplished. The Dutch people are very grateful, as well as many other countries in Europe, for what we liberated Holland, but we liberated a lot more than Holland.
Today, we're here to recognize the contribution and the sacrifices made by many in our local area during World War II, and the sacrifices that pertain to the liberation of the Netherlands and Holland. Also, today we give thanks to those with us that saw and experienced the horrors of these events and were able to safely return to their country, their local communities, and their families. Thank you, veterans. Thank you. Today, as a Legionnaire and proud to be chair of Poppy Remembrance for Nova Scotia Nunavut Command, on Command's behalf, I'd like to take this opportunity to pay tribute and thank those comrades that returned from overseas and made that commitment some 75 years ago to their fallen comrades that we should never forget the sacrifices that were made. Through your efforts, the establishment of the Royal Canadian Legion continues to support its veterans and family members. Today, as we pay tribute to those that fought for the liberation of Holland, we should also give thanks to the government and the citizens of the Netherlands that show its appreciation as well for our fallen comrades, those that fought on their soil for their freedom. Their commitment to teach the children of the continued respect of Canadian soldiers, as well as the continued upkeep of the cemeteries where our fallen is buried, is truly outstanding. Today, this service will provide an opportunity for many in this area to reflect back to the memories of your loved ones, your relatives, and your friends. I'm sure you are truly proud of the duties they performed in allowing us and many others to live in a democratic society. We must never forget the sacrifices made, lest we forget. Thank you.
So, I always say little stories about the fact that I was in Holland many times, and I lived among the people. And so I lived in Scotia within North Brabant, and they tell the stories of all the little things that happen. Some are not nice and some are okay. They had one family, when the Germans left, one family, the SS thought they were for the underground, for the people of Holland, for the armed forces of Holland. And guess what? They killed them all before, they had to leave, so they killed them all before they left. And that was one family. Next family, about 2 streets down, there were young soldiers. They didn't even know why they were in the armed forces for the Germans. And so they used to say they lived in the house, and they would take the family out of the house and send them to the barn. And the family had to live in the barn. In this case, these young soldiers, they said, "Oh no, we're going to live in the farm, in the barn, and you live in the house." When they left, they even cleaned the barn before they left. And then the people were happy to say, well, some of the German soldiers were very nice, some were not so nice. And so, as we see in the stories that we go, but the people are so grateful. I was going out for a supper, and I stopped to buy flowers. You have to buy flowers in Holland if you go for supper. And of course, he saw my Canadian badge. "Oh, take them all." "Just take them all." No, I can't. I'm just going to bring a few to the lady who cooked the supper for me. Then see how when you walk the streets or the roads in the little villages, you see all these signs of the war that was. And of course, at Christmas time, they always tell me Christmas stories. Alors, chaque année, la veille de Noël, partout aux Pays-Bas, des enfants déposent des chandelles sur les tombes de soldats canadiens. La chandelle symbolise leur vie en tant que mari, père, frère et ami, et le besoin de se souvenir, même si, comme la chandelle qui brûle pendant un certain temps s'éteint, eux aussi nous ont quittés. Mais les vivants, pour continuer sans eux, sauf en mémoire, une nation reconnaissante. Les Pays-Bas se souviennent. Donc, so every Christmas Eve, they put a candle on the grave of all the people who were buried there, and then especially all the Canadians, and they put a candle that burns, and they know it will fade, but they say, but the memories will always remain. And so, thank you, and to all those who served in the Canadian Armed Forces even today, that the Lord can keep them, that the Lord guard them, and the Lord be with them always. Amen.